respected, a man can survive 1,000 hard days in silence. But the one thing that truly breaks him is feeling unseen by the woman he loves. Because deep inside every strong man, every provider, every protector lies a heart quietly begging to hear a few simple words that almost no woman ever says. And the tragedy is, those words could heal him, inspire him, and make him love you deeper than ever before. There was a man named Daniel who looked successful to the world. He wore clean suits, drove a decent car, smiled when people looked his way, and carried himself like someone who had life figured out. But every night when he parked outside his home after work, he sat in the car for 5 extra minutes before walking inside. 5 silent minutes where he just stared at the steering wheel, not because he hated his family, not because he wanted to leave, but because he was tired. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, the kind of tired that comes from carrying pressure nobody notices. He builds the expectations, the fear of failing, the responsibility of being strong even when he felt weak. And the hardest part was this: nobody ever asked how he was doing. His wife loved him. She truly did. She cooked for him, cared for the children, handled the home, and stayed loyal through difficult seasons. But somewhere over the years, their love became practical instead of emotional. Their conversations turned into schedules, complaints, reminders, and responsibilities. Did you pay the electricity bill? Don't forget the school meeting. We need groceries. You're late again. And Daniel handled it all quietly because that's what men are taught to do. Handle it, fix it, carry it, endure it. But one night changed everything. He came home exhausted after losing an important client at work. His boss embarrassed him in front of everyone. His confidence was shattered. The whole drive home, he kept hearing one painful thought repeating inside his mind: what if I'm not enough? Now, most men will never say those words out loud. Pride won't let them. Ego won't let them. But beneath the surface, many men are secretly terrified of being inadequate. They wonder if they're good enough husbands, fathers, providers, or leaders. And when Daniel walked into the house that night, he expected another normal evening. Noise, complaints, stress, but instead, his wife looked at him carefully and said something he had not heard in years. She looked him in the eyes and whispered, "I'm proud of you." That was it. 3 simple words. No lecture, no demand, no criticism. Just, "I'm proud of you." And something inside that man cracked open. Because men are starving for appreciation in a world that only celebrates what they produce. People clap for a man when he wins, when he earns, when he succeeds, when he provides. But very few people tell a man they are proud of him for simply continuing to fight when life gets heavy. You see, women often receive emotional reassurance naturally. Friends comfort them. Family checks on them. Society encourages emotional expression. But men are usually loved conditionally. A man quickly learns that people celebrate him when he performs well, but disappear when he struggles. That is why a single sentence from the woman he loves can become oxygen to his soul. And most women do not realize how deeply their words affect the man beside them. A disrespectful sentence can haunt him for years, but a supportive sentence can transform his entire spirit. There's an old truth many people ignore: a man will go where he feels appreciated, not tolerated, not used, appreciated. Because appreciation gives strength to exhausted souls. I once heard a man say something heartbreaking. He said, "I can work 12 hours a day, battle the world, and carry every burden on my shoulders, but when I come home and still feel like I'm failing the woman I love, that pain destroys me." Think about that. Many men are silently drowning while pretending to swim. And the saddest part, They often drown in silence because they were taught silence is strength. A little boy falls and hears "Stop crying, be a man." A teenager struggles emotionally and hears "Toughen up." A grown man breaks inside and hears nothing at all. So he hides his pain behind jokes, work, anger, distractions, or emotional distance. And eventually people call him cold. But many cold men were once emotional men who learned nobody cared about their feelings. That's why certain words from a woman matter more than people realize. Not fake compliments, not manipulation, real heartfelt acknowledgement. Words like, "I see how hard you try. I trust you. You make me feel safe. I believe in you." And especially, "I'm proud of you." You have no idea what happens inside a man when he hears those words sincerely, because the world constantly tells men what they are doing wrong. Too weak, too emotional, too broke, too ambitious, not ambitious enough, not romantic enough, not successful enough. Men are criticized from every angle while pretending criticism does not hurt them, but it does. Oh, it does. A man may act unaffected while carrying those words in his chest for years. And here's what many women never understand. A respected man becomes a softer man. When a man feels safe emotionally, he loves differently. He opens up more. He becomes gentler, more loyal, more affectionate, more emotionally available. Not because he suddenly changed, but because appreciation unlocked a side of him the world rarely allows him to show. There was another man named Marcus who worked construction for nearly 20 years. Rough hands, tough face, quiet personality. The kind of man people assume has no emotions. One evening, his daughter saw him sitting alone after work, rubbing his aching knees. She walked over and said, "Dad, thank you for working so hard for us." That giant T. Oh man turned his face away because tears instantly filled his eyes. Do you know why? Because men don't always need grand gestures. Sometimes they just need to know their sacrifices matter. That someone notices. That someone cares. That someone sees the invisible weight they carry every day. And let me tell you something powerful. When a man feels emotionally valued, he becomes willing to walk through fire for the people he loves. A respected man becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Focused, protective, driven, loyal, because appreciation feeds masculine energy in a way criticism never can. Now, this does not mean women should worship men or ignore bad behavior. Respect must go both ways. Love must go both ways. But in healthy relationships, people often forget one important truth. Men need emotional nourishment too. Strong shoulders still get tired. Strong minds still overthink. Strong men still cry in silence when nobody is watching. And sometimes all it takes to revive a man's spirit is hearing the words almost nobody says. "I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. You matter." Most men remember compliments for years because they receive so few genuine ones. A woman may forget saying something kind after 5 minutes. A man may remember it for 5 years. That's how emotionally deprived many men truly are. One kind sentence can become his motivation during hard times. One respectful moment can become the reason he refuses to give up. And sadly, many relationships fail not because love disappeared, but because appreciation disappeared. People stop noticing each other, stop thanking each other, stop speaking life into each other. Everything becomes expectation instead of gratitude. And love slowly suffocates under unspoken emotional starvation. You know what many men secretly wish for? Not perfection, not a flawless woman, not constant romance. They simply want peace, a place where they are not constantly judged, a relationship where they can breathe, where they can fail sometimes without feeling worthless, where they can admit fear without being seen as weak, where they can hear words that remind them they are valued beyond money, success, or status. Because despite what society says, men have hearts too, deep hearts, sensitive hearts, loyal hearts, hearts that break quietly, hearts that crave reassurance but rarely ask for it. And the woman who understands this touches a man's soul differently than anyone else ever will. That woman becomes unforgettable, not because she was loud, not because she was perfect, but because she knew how to speak strength into a tired man's spirit. And sometimes that becomes the very thing that saves him. There was a season in Anthony's life when everything around him looked stable, but inside he was collapsing piece by piece. He woke up every morning before sunrise, sat on the edge of his bed, and stared into the darkness while his wife slept. T beside him, not because he didn't love her. He loved her deeply, but every day felt like another battle he was slowly losing. The company he worked for was cutting employees. Bills were piling up. His father was sick. His responsibilities kept growing. And no matter how hard he worked, he felt like life kept whispering in his ear, "You're falling behind." Now here's something people rarely talk about. A man can survive physical exhaustion much longer than emotional hopelessness. Once a man starts believing he's failing the people he loves, something dangerous happens inside him. He may still smile, still go to work, still joke around, but internally his confidence begins to die quietly. And confidence is everything to a man. Not arrogance, not ego, confidence. The belief that he can protect, provide, solve problems, and make life better for the people depending on him. When that belief starts fading, many men begin emotionally shutting down. They speak less, laugh less, dream less, love less openly. Not because they stop caring, but because they are fighting silent wars nobody sees. Anthony reached that point one winter evening. He came home after hearing rumors he might lose his job. His chest was tight with fear, but like most men, he said nothing. He sat at the dinner table quietly while his wife talked about normal daily things. He nodded, barely listening. Then suddenly she stopped talking. She looked at him carefully and asked, "What's wrong?" And he gave the classic answer almost every struggling man gives: nothing. Now women sometimes think men say nothing because they don't trust them. Sometimes that's true. But many times men say nothing because they don't know how to explain the storm inside them without feeling weak. A lot of men were never taught emotional language. They were taught responsibility, not vulnerability. So instead of saying, "I'm scared, I feel like I'm failing, I'm overwhelmed," they say, MPOY, say, "I'm fine." But she kept looking at him that night, and then she said something that completely disarmed him. She said, "You don't have to carry everything alone." And for the first time in months, Anthony felt his chest loosen, not because his problems disappeared, but because someone finally acknowledged his burden. You see, one of the greatest gifts a woman can give a man is emotional safety, not perfection, not constant agreement, safety. The feeling that he can lower his armor without being attacked for it. Most men walk through life wearing invisible armor every single day. At work, they must appear strong. In public, they must appear composed. With family, they must appear dependable. With friends, they must appear unshaken. So where does a man go when he wants to stop pretending? That answer matters more than most people realize. Because if a man feels emotionally unsafe everywhere, eventually he stops expressing himself altogether. And then relate. On ships begin dying slowly from emotional distance, not hatred, distance. silence, disconnection. People think relationships collapse from one huge moment, but often they collapse from thousands of tiny emotional moments that were ignored. The missed appreciation, the constant criticism, the sarcastic comments, the lack of tenderness, the absence of encouragement, and eventually two people become strangers standing in the same kitchen. That's why certain words become life-changing to men. Words that say, "You're enough. I believe in you. I respect the man you are." Not because men are emotionally fragile children, but because human beings need encouragement to thrive. Even the strongest tree needs water, and men are no different. There was an older married couple once asked the secret to staying together for over 40 years. The husband smiled and said something simple but powerful. "My wife never stopped speaking hope into me." Think about that. Not money, not beauty, not perfection, hope. Because life will humble every person eventually. Every man will face moments where he questions himself, moments where he feels lost, moments where he secretly wonders if he still has value. And in those moments, the voice beside him becomes incredibly powerful. A supportive voice can rebuild a broken spirit. A destructive voice can completely destroy one. Many men carry childhood wounds nobody knows about. A father who never praised them. A mother who constantly criticized them. A past relationship that shattered their confidence. A lifetime of feeling they had to earn love instead of simply receiving it. So when a woman genuinely appreciates a man's heart, effort, loyalty, and sacrifice, it touches places inside him that have been empty for years. And here's the dangerous mistake many people make. They only praise men for achievements. You got promoted, you bought a house, you made money, but very few people praise Chara, C tier. Very few people tell a man, "I admire your heart. I love how hard you try. I respect your integrity. I appreciate how you never give up." And those are the compliments that stay in a man's soul forever. Because deep down, many men are terrified that who they are will never be enough unless they constantly achieve more. That fear drives countless men into exhaustion. They work harder, push harder, suppress emotions harder, trying desperately to feel worthy. But the tragedy is, sometimes the thing they are starving for cannot be bought or earned. It has to be spoken. There was a young man named Caleb who grew up without hearing affection from his father. His dad provided financially, but emotionally stayed distant. No hugs, no encouragement, no "I'm proud of you." So Caleb became obsessed with proving himself. Sports, career success, money, status. He chased achievement because achievement felt like love. And years later, even after becoming successful, he still. LL felt empty. One night his girlfriend noticed him sitting silently after a difficult week. She walked over, held his hand, and softly said, "You know you don't have to prove your worth to me, right?" That sentence hit him harder than anything else in his life. Because many men secretly believe love must be earned through performance. They think if they stop producing, succeeding, fixing, or providing, they will stop being loved. That pressure crushes men quietly every day. And this is why emotionally intelligent women are so powerful. Not because they manipulate men, not because they flatter egos, but because they understand something deeper. A man who feels respected becomes emotionally alive. He becomes more open, more attentive, more affectionate, more devoted, because appreciation creates emotional connection, while constant criticism creates emotional withdrawal. Now let's be honest, no relationship is perfect. People get frustrated, people argue, people dig, appoint each other, but healthy love remembers to water the good, not only attack the bad. If all a person hears is what they lack, eventually they stop feeling inspired to grow. This is true for men and women both. But many men especially suffer in silence because society rarely gives them emotional compassion. A woman cries publicly and people gather around her. A man struggles publicly and people often tell him to man up. So he learns to bleed internally. And some men become emotionally numb simply because numbness feels safer than disappointment. That's why words matter. Tone matters. Respect matters. One sentence can become healing. Another sentence can become trauma. A man may forget what someone bought him, but he never forgets how someone made him feel when life was heavy. Never. And the women who truly change men's lives are rarely the loudest women. Usually they are the women who know how to make a man feel seen without making him feel small. That is rare. Very rare. Because today many people know how to demand love, but few know how to nurture it. Few know how to protect another person's spirit. Few know how to speak life into someone exhausted by the world. But when a woman learns this art, she becomes unforgettable to a man. Not because she boosted his ego, but because she reminded him he was human. And sometimes humanity is exactly what men are starving for in a world constantly demanding strength from them. There was a man named Jordan who had mastered the art of pretending. If you saw him in public, you would think he had everything under control. He laughed loudly, helped everyone around him, paid the bills on time, showed up when people needed him. He was the dependable one, the strong one, the man everybody leaned on. But the truth was, Jordan felt invisible, not physically invisible, emotionally invisible. And there is a special kind of loneliness that comes from being needed by everyone while feeling truly understood by no one. One evening, he sat in a crowded room full of family and friends during a celebration dinner. Everyone was laughing, talking, eating, enjoying themselves. Jordan smiled politely through the whole night. But inside, he felt empty. Do you know why? Because sometimes the strongest person in the room is secretly hoping someone will notice they are tired too. That's the thing many people miss about men. A lot of men are praised for what they do while silently starving for who they are to be appreciated. People thank men for paying bills, fixing problems, handling responsibilities, but rarely for their emotional endurance, rarely for the silent sacrifices nobody sees, the stress they hide, the fears they bury, the pressure they carry without complaint. And eventually, many men start asking themselves a heartbreaking question. If I stop being useful, would anyone still value me? That question destroys more men than people realize. Because from a young age, many men are conditioned to believe their worth is tied to performance. If they succeed, they are respected. If they struggle, they are ignored. So they spend their lives trying to earn love through usefulness. And that becomes exhausting. Jordan reached a breaking point one rainy night after an argument with his partner. It wasn't even a major fight, just another buildup of frustration, stress, and emotional misunderstanding. But one sentence pierced him deeply. She looked at him and said, "You never talk to me anymore." Now, to her, it was frustration. But to him, it felt like failure. Because he wanted to talk. He just didn't know how anymore. You see, many men don't grow up learning how to process emotions. They learn how to suppress them. They become experts at functioning while wounded. A little boy cries and hears laughter. A teenage boy opens up and hears judgment. A grown man struggles and hears silence. So eventually he locks everything inside. And after that, RS of doing that, he no longer knows how to explain what hurts him. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel deeply. In fact, many emotionally quiet men feel things intensely. They just express pain differently. Some become distant. Some work nonstop. Some become irritable. Some drown themselves in distractions. Some sit in silence, hoping someone notices without them having to beg for understanding. Jordan went for a drive after that argument. No destination, just driving through empty streets with music playing softly in the background. And while driving, he realized something painful. He could remember every criticism he had heard over the last few years, but barely remembered the last genuine compliment. Think about that. Many men hear correction far more than appreciation. Why didn't you do this? You should have handled that better. You never understand. You always forget. And slowly, criticism becomes the background noise of his life. Now, correction is necessary. Sometimes every human being has flaws. But when appreciation disappears completely, relationships become emotional battlefields instead of safe places. And eventually people stop bringing their hearts home. Jordan returned home late that night expecting silence, but instead, his partner walked over quietly and said something unexpected. She said, "I know you carry a lot that you don't talk about." That sentence froze him, because for the first time in a long time, he felt understood without needing to explain everything. And let me tell you something powerful. Understanding is one of the deepest forms of love. Not controlling someone, not fixing someone, understanding them, seeing beyond behavior into the burden underneath. Sometimes a man's anger is exhaustion. Sometimes his silence is emotional overload. Sometimes his distance is fear. And when someone learns to see beyond the surface, healing begins. Jordan sat down that night and finally opened up. DOY uncomfortably, not because he suddenly became emotionally fearless, but because he finally felt emotionally safe. That changes everything for a man. A respected man becomes emotionally courageous. He starts sharing more, expressing more, loving more openly, because he no longer feels like vulnerability will be used against him. And sadly, many men have experienced exactly that. They opened up once and were mocked for it, judged for it, dismissed for it, or had their vulnerability thrown back in their faces during arguments. After that, many men emotionally shut doors that are hard to reopen. That's why emotionally mature relationships require gentleness with each other's hearts. Words leave scars, tone leaves scars, disrespect leaves scars. And while men may hide those scars better externally, internally they still exist. There was an older man once interviewed after 50 years of marriage. They asked him what made him stay so devoted to his wife all those years. "To ours," he smiled and said, "She never made me feel small." That's powerful, because many men can survive hardship. They can survive struggle, long hours, pressure, failure, but constantly feeling diminished by the person they love slowly destroys their spirit. And this works both ways, of course. Women need emotional safety too, but tonight we are talking about something society rarely discusses: the emotional hunger of men. The need men have to feel respected, appreciated, and emotionally accepted, not worshiped. Accepted. There's a difference. A healthy man does not need constant praise like a child, but every human soul needs encouragement. Every soul needs reassurance during hard seasons. Every soul needs moments where somebody says, "I see your effort. I know you're trying. I appreciate who you are." Those words are not small. To a tired man, those words can feel like water in the desert. And here's another truth nobody talks about enough. Men remember how women made them feel during their lowest moments. When a man is successful, everybody celebrates him. But when he's confused, struggling, doubting himself, or emotionally drained, the woman who stands beside him with kindness becomes unforgettable. Not because she solved all his problems, but because she protected his spirit while he fought through them. That kind of love changes people. It gives strength, hope, peace. And peace is one of the most attractive things a man can experience. A man who finds peace with a woman often becomes deeply attached emotionally because peace is rare in this world. The world gives men competition, pressure, expectations, stress. Peace feels like home, and often peace comes through simple things, gentle words, respectful communication, emotional understanding, appreciation that is spoken out loud instead of silently assumed, because assumptions kill connection. People start believing he already knows I love him. She already knows I appreciate her. Maybe, but hearing it matters. Hearing love matters. Hearing respect matters. Hearing appreciation matters. Human beings are not machines. Hearts need reinforcement. And many relationships become emotionally dry because people stop expressing what once came naturally. They stop thanking each other, stop encouraging each other, stop noticing each other, until one day love feels distant, even though both people are still physically there. Jordan learned something important after that night. Strength is not pretending to need nothing. Real strength is allowing yourself to be loved properly. And for many men, that may be the hardest lesson of all, because men are taught to provide love, but not always taught how to receive it. By the time Michael turned 42, he had become the kind of man everybody admired from a distance. Reliable, disciplined, successful, the man who always showed up, the man people called when life fell. Apart, but behind closed doors, Michael often sat alone in silence, wondering a question he had never admitted out loud. Who takes care of the man who takes care of everyone else? That question haunted him. Because the truth is, many men spend their lives being emotionally useful to others while secretly feeling emotionally abandoned themselves. And the world rarely notices. People notice when a man stops providing. People notice when he fails publicly. People notice when he breaks down dramatically. But few notice the quiet exhaustion that builds inside a man over years of pressure. The pressure to succeed, to protect, to stay strong, to hide fear, to never fall apart. And eventually many men become emotionally numb just to survive the weight of those expectations. Michael had reached that point. His smile became automatic. His conversations became shallow. His heart slowly became quieter. Not because he stopped loving the people around him, but because somewhere along the way he stopped feeling emotionally alive. Then one ordinary evening changed everything. His wife found an old photo album while cleaning the house. She sat beside him, flipping through pictures from years earlier. There they were in a tiny apartment with almost nothing, laughing over burnt food, holding each other on broken furniture, dreaming about a future they had not built yet. And suddenly she looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, "You know something? You spent your whole... But I hope you know you were already enough before any of this." Michael looked down instantly because his eyes filled with tears he did not want anyone to see. Not because he was weak, but because those words touched a wound he had carried for decades. The wound of believing his worth depended on what he could provide. And sadly, many men live with that wound every single day. They think love must be earned continuously, that they must constantly achieve more, fix more, carry more, sacrifice more just to deserve affection and respect. So they run themselves into emotional exhaustion trying to become enough. But here's the truth many men desperately need to hear: a man is more than his paycheck, more than his status, more than his ability to solve problems. A man is a human being before he is a provider. And when a woman understands that deeply, she speaks to parts of a man's soul the world usually ignores. That's why certain words become unforgettable to men, not because men are obsessed with compliments, but because sincere appreciation reaches places inside them that have been empty for years. A lot of men have spent their entire lives hearing what they should become. Very few have heard appreciation for who they already are. And that changes a person. You know what many men secretly crave more than anything? Peaceful love, not toxic passion, not emotional games, not constant chaos disguised day. It's excitement, peace, a connection where they can finally breathe emotionally, where they don't feel like they're constantly being tested, where they are respected even in imperfect moments, where they can fail sometimes without feeling worthless. Because life already fights men hard enough. The outside world is already brutal enough. So when home also becomes a place of criticism, tension, disrespect, or emotional coldness, many men slowly shut down inside. Not immediately, gradually, like a candle losing flame little by little, and then people wonder why he changed, why he became distant, why he stopped opening up. Sometimes the answer is simple. His spirit got tired. There was a man once asked, "What makes a man stay deeply in love?" And his answer was powerful. He said, "When I feel respected, I naturally give more love." That sentence explains something important about masculine energy. Respect is emotional oxygen for many men, not dominance, not control. Respect. The feeling that the woman beside him sees his heart, effort, sacrifices, and intentions with appreciation instead of constant contempt. And when a man feels that kind of respect, something incredible happens. He softens. A respected man usually becomes more patient, more affectionate, more emotionally generous, more protective, more loyal, because appreciation awakens the best version of him. But criticism without compassion often awakens defensiveness, distance, and emotional withdrawal. Again, this applies to women too. Everyone needs kindness, but men often receive very little emotional tenderness from the world. Many men are only hugged as children, only comforted when young, only emotionally cared for before adulthood hardens life around them. After that, the world mainly asks them to produce, perform, provide, endure. And if they struggle emotionally, they are often told to hide it better. That's why a loving woman's words become so powerful in a man. Life, because she can become the one place where he no longer feels like a machine, where he feels human again, where he feels emotionally safe enough to remove the armor. And let me tell you something many people learn too late. Armor protects people, but it also exhausts them. A man cannot wear emotional armor forever without becoming tired deep in his soul. He needs moments where he can rest emotionally, where he can hear words that remind him he is loved not only for what he does, but for who he is. Words like, "I appreciate your heart. I love how hard you try. I admire your strength. I trust you. I'm proud of the man you are." Those words stay with men forever, forever. A man may forget expensive gifts, forget arguments, forget details, but he rarely forgets how a woman made him feel about himself. Because every person is carrying an invisible emotional story. Every person is fighting private battles, and often the greatest gift we can give each other. Her is not perfection, it's encouragement, real encouragement, the kind that restores tired souls. Michael realized that night that his wife's words healed something inside him he never knew was broken. And from that moment, he began loving differently too, more openly, more emotionally, more intentionally, because appreciation creates connection, and connection changes everything. The sad reality is that many couples wait until love is dying before they start appreciating each other again. They wait until distance grows, until silence grows, until resentment grows. But love needs nourishment long before crisis arrives. People need to feel valued consistently, not only during special occasions, not only after achievements, not only when they are winning at life. Sometimes people need love most when they feel lost. And the people who understand this become life-changing partners because they know how to water hearts during dry seasons. Now imagine how different our relationships would become if people spoke appreciation more freely, if men heard encouragement instead of only pressure, if women heard gratitude instead of only expectations, if couples protected each other's spirits instead of attacking each other's weaknesses. Imagine how many broken hearts would heal, how many distant marriages would reconnect, how many emotionally exhausted people would finally feel seen. Because at the end of the day, most human beings are not asking for impossible things. They simply want to feel loved sincerely, respected deeply, appreciated openly, and understood gently. That is what so many men are silently hoping to hear, not because they are weak, but because they are human. And maybe that is the lesson so many people spend years learning too late. Love is not only built through grand gestures, it is built through small words spoken at the right moment. A tired man does not always need solutions. Sometimes he just needs reassurance. IMS, he just needs to hear, I see you, I appreciate you, I'm proud of you. Because behind many strong men are silent battles nobody ever notices. Battles with pressure, fear, self-doubt, responsibility, the constant feeling that they must hold everything together even while falling apart internally. And yet they continue. They wake up, go to work, handle problems, protect the people they love, smile through stress, carry burdens quietly. Not because life is easy for them, but because they believe someone is depending on them. That is why appreciation matters so deeply. Not fake praise, not empty flattery, real acknowledgement of the heart behind the effort. You never truly know what someone is carrying inside. The man beside you may look calm while fighting anxiety every day. He may look strong while questioning his worth every night. He may look fine while silently begging for one kind word that reminds him he matters beyond what he provides. And something, your voice becomes the voice that saves someone from emotionally giving up. Never underestimate the power of your words. A few sincere sentences can heal years of emotional loneliness. A little respect can revive a tired soul. A little gratitude can reignite love that was slowly fading. Because human beings grow where they feel valued, and men are no exception. So if you love a man, tell him, not only when he succeeds, not only when he buys something, not only when life is perfect, tell him when he is trying. Tell him when he is struggling. Tell him when he feels uncertain. Tell him you see his effort. Tell him you respect his heart. Tell him you appreciate the sacrifices nobody else notices. Those words may seem small to you, but to him, they may become the reason he keeps believing in himself. And for the men listening tonight, understand this too. You do not have to suffer silently forever. Strength is not pretending you feel nothing. Real strength is all. Lowering yourself to be human, allowing yourself to receive love, allowing yourself to open your heart to people who genuinely care about you. Because even the strongest shoulders need rest. Even the strongest hearts need comfort. Even the strongest men need love spoken out loud sometimes. At the end of life, people rarely remember every dollar they earned or every argument they won. They remember how people made them feel. They remember who gave them peace, who gave them strength, who believed in them when they were struggling to believe in themselves. And maybe that is what real love has always been: not perfection, not control, not performance, just two imperfect people choosing to protect each other's hearts in a difficult world. So tonight, before pride, distractions, or busy schedules steal another opportunity, say the words, give the appreciation, speak the love out loud, because the heart standing beside you may be starving for something as simple as hearing, "I'm proud of you." And sometimes those 4 words can change a man's entire life.